Welcome back, everybody. Joining us from Washington with a look at Axios AM, the co-founder of Axios, Mike Allen. Mike, good morning to you.
One happy Friday to you.
Happy Friday to you.
Guys.
Talk to us about Axios as one big thing today.
Yes, Axios is one Instagram thing. Oh, wait. Axios is one big thing. Trump's I mean it moment on China. President Trump, who today is expected to announce tariffs on China, this is putting into effect what he threatened before. And this is right after the U.S. is asking China for help with North Korea. But if you look at what Trump has said over months, years, even decades, for 30 years, the one thing that Trump has been consistent about is that he thinks the U.S. is being ripped off and he thinks the U.S. should fight back. And today is the start of that. This is stirring the pot, taking a trade spat, moving it toward a trade war. But our sources say the president has no hesitation about disrupting the global economy to do something that he's always said he would.
Why do you think that it has no consequence on him that it may disrupt the global economy? I mean, obviously, if he goes through with these tariffs, as some media reports are reporting, we get it that it's obviously going to be a trade war between two of the largest economies in the world, but that's going to have ramifications on the global economy, as you said. Why is that not weighing in on his decision?
Well, for sure. And ever since the day he took office, he's had advisors telling him that this could ultimately hurt U.S. consumers. It could ultimately hurt U.S. workers. But going back to that Oval Office meeting that Axios reported, where the president said, "Bring me tariffs." He's been saying this, I've been doing this on the campaign trail, and I am very willing to disrupt a global economic system in place since World War II, where the U.S. absorbed some trade deficits as part of its policy. He's become obsessed with that one figure. The advisors, including Gary Cohn, who are most likely to try to talk him out of it, and they would just buy time, buy time, buy time. Looks like time's up.
Hey, Mike, how does North Korea play into all this? Obviously, China very much a part of the denuclearization, or the possible denuclearization, shall we say, of North Korea. Do you think that could change things?
No, that's a very astute question. And yes, that's a twist in this. Our sources say that if China is cooperative and helpful with North Korea, the president very much could pull these back. So this is a little bit of continuation of that storyline we've seen where the president threatens, and what he does in the end is never as bad as what the markets fear and what it looks like from what he's saying.
Let me ask you about this interesting dynamic to all this, because as this trade war kind of slowly unfolds, there's an interesting appeal coming out of China to American filmmakers, which seems to be at an all-time high. Why is that? What's that all about?
Yeah, well, China has become such an important market for Hollywood that there are parts of movies that are scripted and filmed in order to appeal to that market and more accurately to avoid getting the wrath of Chinese censors or the Chinese government. So Hollywood has always paid a lot of attention, but now China is trying to build its own Hollywood. So Axios' Erica Pandy reports that China is using some Hollywood techniques of its own. It now has some successful domestic films, which interestingly enough are made with the help of Hollywood, but they're also investing in Hollywood studios. So this is another way that we're seeing China saying we're not going to depend on the U.S. Instead, we actually are going to become a competitor to the U.S.
Interesting. All right, Mike Allen, live for us in Washington, D.C. this morning.
Mike.
Thank you very much. Of course, we're going to be reading Axios AM in just a little bit. And to all of our viewers out there, you too can sign up for the newsletter by simply going to signup.axios.com.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.